Well,
Made
I
it.
want to put a shout out to Anthony, KE7OSN, for taking time out of his busy schedule on his honeymoon to give me the claim host.
He needs to work on his prenuptials. Okay, so this little program is going to be on the 7QP contest for 2024 that we just had a couple of weeks ago. So the 7QP is named after the seven states: Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Arizona. So it's the western states of the U.S. minus California. Thank goodness. So topics, we're going to have a little overview on 7QPs, talk about food, weather, pictures, operations, the contest scores, and some statistics. So just as a quick review for the people that haven't been involved with this a whole lot, it's held annually on the first Saturday in May. Stations in the U.S. 7th call area: Arizona, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Wyoming. For stations outside the 7th call area, counties within the 7th area become multipliers. So it's a big incentive to seek out every county within the seventh call area. That's what everybody outside the area is looking for. So contest objective is to get all 259 counties in the 8 states in the 7th area. That's the big objective. Okay, contest starts at 6 in the morning, ends at midnight. So it's just an 18-hour long, hard day run. So you don't have to worry about figuring out how you're going to make it through the nighttime. And when there's not so many contacts in it, gets pretty dry and pretty hard out there. Okay, some counties in the 7th call area are the most sparsely populated counties in the U.S. So, I mean, there are more sheep and there's more goats than there are people in a lot of these counties. The best effort that has ever been made so far was 209 counties of the 256 counties activated. So missed it by about 50 counties. That's still an awful lot, but like I said, some of those counties are pretty darn sparse out there for people, and I don't know if all of those counties actually have hams in them. So if you want to know more about what goes on, just do a quick Google on 7QP, and that'll take you to the www.7qp.org site, and you can read all about it and learn what what the contest is about. So it's a fun contest. It's not huge. It's not like the CQ worldwide type contest and the ARL international and stuff like that. But it's a mid-level contest where it's a lot of fun. So here's a map of Oregon. There's a big star right in the middle of that, and that star represents our activation zone. So that's where we set on that county line between Wheeler and Crook in the middle of the state of Oregon. So base camp is at Walton Lake Snow Park. It's in the Ochoco National Forest. So it's out in the middle of Oregon there. And we're at 5,500 feet worth of elevations. So I end up working with the Forest Service. Fortunately for us, there is no permit required and there's no fees that are cost out, but it does require a little bit of finessing to work with the Forest Service to be able to make sure that you can get permit or permission to use that in an overnight operation. Amenities that we have around there: we have a toilet. Hey, that's a big deal. We have a very nice warming hut. We have reasonable ground for putting up tents and lots of space for campers. The other thing that is in the warming hut is a great big wood stove to keep that place nice and toasty and warm. And it's a nice, great place for getting out of the elements. So on the ridge with really good visibility, so we can see north, south, east, west, 360 degrees. Reasonable flat on top with nice sloping ground that moves away. And there's lots of great big tall trees for hanging antennas. Really a ham operator's paradise up there. So the location that we're at, this is on a 2-county line, Crook County and Wheeler County. It's about in the middle of Oregon. Wheeler County has a population of around 1,375 people. There's more sheep and more cattle there in that county than there are human population. Crook County is entirely different. They have over 21,000 people in that county. So from home to this location, and my home here is Corvallis. It's about 175 miles, and it takes me about 4 hours and 40 minutes to drive it, to travel that distance. The nice thing about it is all the roads are paved, so you're not out there running along on gravel roads or muddy or dirt roads and stuff like that. It's all 100% paved out there. Here's a bird's eye view of looking at the top down at the very top of the mountain. We have a nice little water pond there on the side there. On years past, I have an antenna that actually goes across that body of water. So when I'm making contacts, I'm sometimes saying that I'm talking to you over the pond. I can't say if that body of water really helps or hinders anything, but it's just a cute thing because my antenna is my feed point is definitely hanging out into that water there. And actually sometimes the feed line ends up dropping into that water and I kind of pull it off to the side and to keep it out of the water. At the north end, you see a green line that intersects that at a little bit of a diagonal. That is the county line. So we need to be, I think it's 1,000 feet from that county line or our operations. Moving down, there's a tin metal roof that's poking up at you with a little bit of reflection on the right side. That's the warming hut. So it's tucked in there very nicely amongst some of the trees, but that's our warming hut. So it's a pretty good sized place. And then down just a little further, there's a small little silver building there, and that's the loo. That's the pit toilet. And yeah, as you can see, there's lots of flat area for putting campers. There's plenty of treat areas for putting up tents. Lots of nice amenities there as far as having places to stretch out and people aren't all on top of each other for doing their operations. So objectives. First of all, have fun. Boy, do we have fun. There's always something going on there. Maximize contest points by being on a multi-county line. So we're on 2-county lines. So any contact that they make with us, that's worth twice the points. Be first place in our 7QP category. So we actually have 3 different categories that we really compete in. We have 2 counties that we compete in. So that's two categories there. And the third category is we're classified as an expedition and we're on a county line and we're known as a multi. So we have multiple transmitters, multiple operators. That's what the multi means. So this year's attendees, we had Anna McNerman, an NH6Z, Scott KF7 GGN, Paul Lasardi, and 0VLR, Ron Post, AE4 JL. Yours truly, Mike Shelby, W7RIS. Paul, boy, everybody before this has all been there before. Vaughn, he had been there before, but this is the first time back in a long hiatus. So it's good to have him here. We had Paul, W7PEB. He's a newcomer that actually stepped in and I think he had a really good time up there. Um, if nothing else, the food was good, a little anxious in getting out of there. And we had Michael Burns, WA7SKG. He had been up there previously 2 other events. So this is the first time for him back there after a bit of a hiatus. Contest conditions. Food was phenomenal. Couldn't ask for better food. I think that the price of admission up there for paying for the food is well worth just going for the food for that. Camaraderie was superb. It's really nice hanging out with some really top-notch ham radio operators and playing ham radio for the weekend. Contest conditions was exciting. There was there was a lot of good stuff going on. It wasn't quite the density of what we had hoped for, but it really helped us out on the score side that we had a really good contest conditions. So band conditions were reasonably good. I'll say that it was reasonably good. It's not as good as what I had been seeing previously, but it was good enough to make a substantial mark in our scores. And then we also had a Sunday morning surprise. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Oh yeah, here's another one. So band conditions were reasonably okay. So what normally happens 2 days before a major contest? So this is an old saying that I always have around here. Usually we get hit with a CME, whatever band conditions we have by 2 days after that CME are usually atrocious caused by that CME. But this year it didn't happen. So we didn't have a CME that screwed up our wonderful contest. So this is going to run through a few pictures here. This is a kind of a rest park here. It's a snowmobiling park here. So this is in between Tombstone and Santiam Pass there. So we stopped for a quick rest break and a bathroom break. And this is what we had for caravan. So most of us left out of the Albany um, area, and we all got together in a big caravan, and we all caravanned up as a big long line of people, and that was really cool. I thought that was a nice little touch where we all hung out together on our way up there. And you can see even at that elevation, there was still a little bit of standing snow around there. So we just before we head up the hill, we always stop in La Pine. La Pine is kind of the last ditch effort if you need any extra supplies, extra beer, toilet paper, or whatever you needed. This is kind of the last place. So this is one of the tables there that we had at a beer pub. And so this is all of us guys just saying howdy, everybody. This is up on top of the Walton Lake Snow Park. You can see it's a real nice flat area. We were able to spread out, take up a whole lot of area. I'm standing back by the, actually, no, I think Paul took this. I'm not sure, don't remember who took this picture, but this was taken back by the warming hut, not too far from that. Really appreciate having Paul here help out on putting up antennas. Usually I get stretched a little thin of this ball launcher to put up the antennas. So he was our really good guy that just nailed every single shot. Did a really super job for us. Really appreciate that. So this was my little surprise that I brought up for this event. So this is a 30-foot pneumatic tower. So it just uses a little air pump to pump this thing up, and you got an instant 30-foot tower. And this has an A3S tri-bander setting up at the very top with a rotator on it. So that was very cool. It sounded like a great idea. The problem was during the contest was an absolutely horrible day, and wind conditions, being that this was my first time using this antenna, I was a little concerned about putting it up in the air with all the really, really high winds that we had there at that point in time. So it wasn't until the end of the day that we actually got this thing up in the air.
Hey, Mike,
Yo,
for the discerning eye, if you look on the left corner from the tree, you can see your 160-meter antenna also in the background.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, you can see off to the left there the wire antenna that I stick up there. So it was setting right in the very top of both trees on both ends. So that's a 160-meter G5 RV that I hang up there. And so that uses up most of that stretch between two big old trees there. So another thing that is provided up there is internet. So we have a connection via cell connection. Thank you for AT&T. And so this is the antenna and device up there in the air that does all the cell connection. And believe that is a solid 5 bar. You can't ask for better cell connection. It's pretty cool to see the speed we get out of that. Also on the very top of that is a Wi-Fi antenna there with a Ubiquiti bullet that provides Wi-Fi coverage all across everything for doing logging, and you can connect to it from your cell phone and do all your emailing and talking to, and passing text, or not text, but email back and forth between your spouse and any other friends that you may have down on the flatland. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. Food. Food, man, that was cool. So over on the left, those are filet mignons that we end up cooking up there for our Friday night supper. That's Paul over there heating up some potatoes that we'll have with the supper. Lower left, that's a hamburger with Angus meat, and that's a 3/4 pounder. So that chunk of meat is almost, about a half an inch thick. It's a big hunk and huge piece of meat. So that was Saturday. No, that was, excuse
Yep.
me, that was Saturday lunch. Yep, Saturday lunch.
Actually, Mike, it's not a good picture, but that's actually the pork, the pork
Oh, that's
loin
the
with the
pork.
sauce.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Okay, now I look
yep, yep.
close. That's
But we did.
that.
Mike is right, though. We did have what he described. We had that at lunch. This was the Saturday
Yep,
night dinner.
yep, yep. I needed to look a little bit. I didn't see the little piece of chunk of meat that had fallen off to the side. And that was the lower right is Paul getting things set up for lunch for making us McDonald Egg McMuffins.
And I want to thank Paul. So it was the Paul team. He was my sous chef and was right there at the ready whenever I needed him to take over, so I could do something else, and also get us ready with commissary plates, everything. Just we were working like a team. So thank you, Paul.
Yep. Okay, here's this is dinner Friday night. Yep. So this is everybody sitting down. We had a really nice picnic table in there, and I'm glad to see we got the tablecloths out this year and got the that old grungy wood covered up with something a little more sanitary. So that was an excellent. And also, you notice that this is in a nice warm place. I mean, it was cold up there, except for Saturday. I guess Saturday wasn't. No, Sunday wasn't bad. Let's, excuse me, back up again, reerase. Friday, when we did setup, that was actually the only really nice day that we had up there. That was cool. Okay, so on this contest, we don't spare goods on equipment. You can see this is actually Paul's station there. Lots of good hardware, tuners, bandpass filters, and stuff, and hardware to do things. Anna had her flex stuff out there. She had an amplifier, so I think she was running about 700 watts. My system, I have an ALS 500 in there that I normally run about 400 watts on. And then Scott over there, he had a flex system that he was doing his CW work on. So lots of good quality hardware that we brought along to work all these stations. So Sunday morning after the contest, let me back up again. So Saturday was absolutely horrible weather conditions. It rained, it blew, it was just absolutely horrible, nasty outside. And in the evening, as the sun was getting ready to go down, we got hit with some real hard thunder showers, and things turned from rain to icing conditions to snow. And so we knew in the morning we were going to wake up to a little bit of snow on the ground. No big deal. We just didn't realize it was going to be so much. So this is Paul's truck, Paul's camper out there with a, a lot more snow than what we had expected on it. So this is Scott's Jeep there, uh, partly buried in snow. He was trying to get things packed up that next morning. This is my camper. Um, you notice the size of the icicles hanging down the front of that, and then the cornice of the snow that was hanging off the left front side of the truck up there, and even off the very top, the snow had blown over and froze onto the face of the camper there. And on my way down the hill, that stuff was always falling off. It was a big pain in the backside, but you can see. But anyway, I thought the icicles were pretty cool on that. So this is us getting ready. Got everybody packed up, and we're getting ready to get out of town and head down the hill. But it snowed all morning long. So even though we didn't have horrible amount of snow when we first got up in the morning, we probably stacked on another 2 or 3 inches more of snow by the time we started pulling out. This is what the road looked like getting out of that. We were really concerned about icing on the road itself, and that really wasn't too bad. We just took it slow and easy and had no mishaps getting out of there at all. We had one mishap. Scott got a little close to the side of the road coming out of the staging area up there and slid into the ditch, and we had to pull him out. Or actually, Vaughn pulled him out, and after that, it was just slow and easy the rest of the way down the hill.
Mike, if
So
I
this
can
is
make a
what it
comment,
looked like last year. Sure,
yeah, I
go.
was just going to say, all the people that could have gotten stuck in a ditch, I was really glad it was Scott, the smallest vehicle, and we had the tools to get him out. I dare to think, I shudder to think if there was one with a towable camper behind it. I just don't want to even go there.
Yep, yep, yep. That would have been a challenge. So this was last year, same time. We had a similar situation where Sunday morning we got up and we had a whole lot more snow on the ground. But I don't know, it seemed like last year was easy, even though we had more snow, it was a little easier getting out of there and getting down the hill. Um, but this is what it looked like last year. So Uh, I guess the saying it that we have nowadays is now we know what it's like to be on a real expedition. So we have some traumas there to try and deal with as far as getting out of there, getting our stuff set up. So it just makes us better expeditioners out there. So let's get into some stats and some numbers of what happened at the event. So this is kind of a running sheet that I've been keeping for the last many years for how we've done at this event. So at the very top, we have what we did at 2024. Our total score was 27,522. And you can see from the previous year that we did substantially better. We had the MT stands for malts. We had more malts. Interesting this year, we had less CW, and Scott was our CW operator, and I think Paul did some CW last year too. but Scott was just saying there's just was not that much CW out there, just hardly any at all. And I know some of the guys looked around for digital, and there just wasn't that much digital. Seemed like everybody was out there pushing phone. So you can see we have a huge score on phone, 1758 this year, quite big. So that gave us a total contacts of 2023. Interesting number. So it'll be a couple months till we know what kind of where we placed on all that. So we always get our Crook and Wheeler County. We always make first place on that. That's not hard for us to do. But overall, that expedition has always been that holy grail that we've always wanted to go for, and we'll see what comes up this year. Now, understand that these are really great scores, but you know, other people were probably also getting really good scores compared to previous years. So the question is, how much better are these than what other people had got? So this is the
Hey,
score
Mike.
sheet. Yo.
Yeah, I just was watching the chat window, and I know the presenter, it's hard to do that at the same time. So I want to afford you what I'm seeing here. But Ted looked it up on the website. Ted, you want to share what you found?
Yes, so you won your first place in your multi category again this year. I'm putting
So
the website URL in the chat window,
Uh-huh.
and I looked up W7PRA, and you're there. You're in the final 2024 May 2024 results for your
Far out.
category. You won.
Thank you very much. Usually it doesn't get posted quite that fast. Okay, so I'll change that to a first place. Cool. I'll later on tonight I'll jump in there. I want to see by how much.
Yep. Thank you,
Okay,
Ted.
so
And
okay.
Ron
Thank
did
you.
all the CW last year as well. And thank you everybody for the chat.
Yep. Okay, so this is kind of what the scoreboard looked like. Actually, I have some better stuff a little bit later here. This kind of compares things from last year. Left one is from this year, right is from last year, and you can just see we just almost not quite doubled almost everything on there. Points was a little bit, or excuse me, mults were a little bit less, and I'll get to that in a bit. So here's another kind of breakdown. Did I miss something here? No, okay, I got a couple of more slides. So scores, we basically 42% better on overall score. QSOs, number of QSOs, 41% better on that. On points, about 35% better on number of points that we get, but malts only about 11%. But those malts, those really help to turn into a big plus for us. So points per multiplier this year 32, last year was 21. That's a 33% improvement. That's huge. And that's what by just bringing up the number of multipliers can end up helping us do. This was kind of a run list by hour for the contest. And you can see early in the morning time, we had a good run, a lot of stuff going on. During the day, things mellowed out. And then later on in the evening, we had another big run. Matter of fact, I think Paul and Anna both had super big runs on the bands that they were involved with at that time. Is that correct? Is that correct there, Paul?
Yeah, and Ron too, he was consistently pounding on 15 throughout.
Yep. I'll have a slide coming up on that. So this is by operator. So there's Ron up there. So there's 15 meters, so 284 contacts out of that. And you can see Paul GGN, what he did, not as good as before, but still very, very good, very respectful. N0 VLR, our Paul there, he bound a whole bunch down, and Anna was just merciless. She just, you can see what she did for her scores, knocked a whole bunch down there. And then the other Paul there, W7PEB, he knocked off 55. I got 75. Mostly these were I think almost all 80. Yeah, these were all 80 meters up there. And then Michael, so he knocked off a little bit on 15 meters and 40 and 80, a little bit of combination. So he did it. He knocked off a bunch too. So that kind of was a breakdown on what went on. So CW, 265 points out of that are contacts. On phone compared to 1,758 phone contacts. Okay, that's it, guys, and open for any questions. I'll stop sharing and get out of here. Any other comments or anything, something you want to talk about on that?
I'm going to just offer to accept any input or comments on, now that we've come back from this event, if there was anything that we'd like to remember for next year. I've sent Mike some collaboration of my notes, a collation of my notes. But I'll collect them, or you can send them to Mike or whatever, but they're good lessons learned about what we would want to do differently, or what we need to check, before we go next year, things of that nature. It's really good while it's fresh in our minds. That's it.
Schedule the snow for Monday.
Okay, I'll
That was
work on that.
very
one.
interesting, Mike. That was very interesting, Mike. And it kind of
Cool.
gives me interested maybe to try to participate maybe next year.
Okay, it is for the hardy up there. That actually, that's a busy day on Friday, getting everything set up and operational and running, and debugged. And then when it on the teardown on Sunday, normally when we don't have that snow, it's about a 2.5 hour job on tearing down and getting everything packed up. I think it took us 4 hours, at least 4 hours this time. And same way with the year before. Yeah, probably more like 5. But with all that extra snow and trudging through it and getting stuff, fingers don't work when it's cold. It was not a lot of fun trying to get everything packed up. Oh, and there's stuff that got left behind. There was floor mats. Let's see, Michael left, couldn't find his floor mat before going into his camper. I borrowed a shovel from Anna and dug down through 4 inches of compacted snow and ice to find mine, and peeled it off of the frozen gravel underneath it, and then knocked off all the gravel from that. There were several washers and bolts and screws that I lost in the snow. We had anchors that were driven into the ground up there, and that's really, really rocky ground. And those anchors, I'll say, they're a bitch to get out. And banging on, trying to find the darn anchors to begin with, to dig down through the snow to find the anchors, and then to use a sledgehammer to bang those things around enough to be able to weasel those things out of the ground. It was a challenge. It was a real challenge. And then,
Yep.
and let's see, my slide out got stuck from the snow. What about yours, Paul? Did yours got stuck?
No, not that I'm willing to report.
Yes, it did.
I had a challenge, and there was many words exchanged between me and the broom. But I finally got it loose. And I drove down the hill, Mike,
And
with
then,
a 2.5
Nice.
inch gap until we got to like melting zone, and then I closed it up at the gas station.
Got
The,
it. Got it. And then Michael, he had his problem with his slide out too, trying to get it closed up. So it's not without problems. You got to be patient and do some engineering, and not get too upset about it. You just take it as it is.
So
Yeah, I
John, you
want
were trying to say something there?
I want to recognize Paul W7PEB for not once but twice leaving something behind at a major event. So that's his coffee cup. It's right there.
Okay.
We were wondering whose it was, and it was right there on the bottom. So Vaughn, yeah, I told you I'd take it, and I thought it was his, but the call sign's right there, his old call sign. But anyway, so he'll get it at field day.
something else new this year we had to do is we had to bring quite a few verticals into the warming hut to thaw out enough to take them down
Mm,
because that rain went to freezing rain, then snow.
Yep. Yep. We had a lot of rope that we couldn't get knots untangled. So I think some of them got cut. Some of them just got taken into the warming hut to get untangled. We had some verticals, some fiberglass verticals that had to be taken in there and also and to get unthawed. So there was a lot of stuff that had to go into that warming hut. I mean, it looked a little bit like a Chinese laundry, but except it was ham equipment that was hanging from the ceiling.
yep. And for that fiberglass vertical, by the way, it's 33 feet tall, which means it looked like it was a jousting event trying to go in there. And as I was going in, it was melting over the fire, and its sections were sliding in. The
Starting to
ones were
slide.
sliding. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah,
I took Anna's in there and hung it up in the rafters because we couldn't get it down either. So
Yeah. And I think yeah, was it you Paul, that basically you were banging on it trying to get it broke loose, and I said no, take it into the warming hut or something like that to get it unthawed, because otherwise you're just going to damage those fiberglass poles. But
Yep.
anyway, that was good.
like you said, Mike, it was an adventure.
I like adventures.
All right.
Okay.
Any other further questions? The other thing I want to put is an honorable mention for Ron, who posted all the pictures on our website for 7QP. So, Ron, if you want to bring that up when we come up to your report, you can just kind of show us where those things are at, just to kind of introduce us, because some of them aren't so obvious because they're under a menu. And so I'll go through secretaries and treasurers, and then I'll get to you. Okay.
Yeah, wish me
Thank
luck.
you.
Also, I'll add a second confirmation. I did look on the 7QP website, and it is confirmed. Thank you, Rusty, for mentioning it, but it is W7PRA first place, County Line Expedition multi.
Great job. Yeah, it was hard not to win with that kind of a score, almost doubling last year's when we still made first place. But yeah.
Okay, but you can't get the cart before a horse, because everybody else has also the ability to take in those kinds of conditions to have really outstanding scores. So someone else could have had, just as much luck as us and beat us out.
No, they don't have our food. Sorry.
That's
All
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Let's move on to the, thank you, Mike. That was a great report, and it was completely accurate. There was no Photoshop in there at all. Everything you saw was raw footage.
Yep.